So just to begin with, this is for the Labyrinth re-release. It's remained such an iconic movie since it came out in '86. So what made this the right time to re-release it?
Um, I don't know so much that it's just, I don't know that we're pegging it to any sort of anniversary. Nicole, are we pegging this to an anniversary? I'm asking someone who
No,
doesn't want to.
no.
No, no, we're not. Okay, well, the Shout is a fabulous distribution company that we've really enjoyed working with. So we're really excited about what they can do. The two 4K masters are really beautiful. It's also just there's a real cultural swing back to some of the tone and morality of the 80s and 90s that are actually more resonant now probably than they were when we made those movies. So I think it's timely. They've got a huge fan base, both movies, and this is an opportunity to be able to download both of them with the 4K masters, which again look beautiful. And now more and more people actually have 4K television, so they can actually start watching it like it's in a theater. And there's also tons of great extras that have been built up over the years on both movies. So it's really it's both for our dedicated fan base to be able to get the quintessential version of those two movies, but it's also for new people finding the movies and feeling the resonance of those stories as they resonate today. As I said, even better, I think, than when we made them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what do you think it is about Labyrinth and that story that really has resonated for so long and keeps these fans so dedicated for almost 40 years now?
Well, in a lot of ways it's the artistry. One thing, CGI is amazing and it's wonderful. So but it's almost such a perfect illusion that you forget it's art. You actually just think you're watching these creatures and animals. And
Yeah.
and interestingly, it makes you as an audience kind of less inspired. One thing about Dark Crystal and Labyrinth is it's incredibly inspiring to young artists because you're very aware of the artistry. There's hundreds and hundreds of artists putting all of their time into every shot of both of those movies. And interestingly, at the time, we were creating cutting edge illusions. It was technologically the cutting edge for fantasy, but now it's more retro because they're puppets, they're creations that were created by artists. So that is very inspiring. And then these are great mythic stories about self-empowerment and dealing with the tough worlds. It's hard to say exactly why the stories resonate. I'm not going to be great at answering that story, that question.
No, no worries. I see what you mean though. And it's of course it's also impossible to talk about the legacy and the appeal without David Bowie. So all these years later, what was it? How do you look back on working with him in this movie and the legacy that he left as well with that?
Well, it was just fun. I mean, I'm saying just fun. It was fun working with him. I was a huge fan because I was right at the right age group. I was probably 19 when Modern Love came out. I was 22 when we made the movie. So for me, he was my favorite musical artist in the world, and I thought he was the coolest guy. And I thought he was bigger than life. I thought he was an uber human.
Mhm.
So I'd say the very first day he showed up, it was completely disarming. He's just a lovely, lovely guy, soft spoken but quick to laugh. Loves to tell a goofy story, and he's an East End London boy, and he was just lovely and gracious and generous to work with. And you have to be patient when you're working with animatronics because inevitably something goes wrong,
Yeah,
in
that makes
take
sense.
after take after take. So it's a lot of work. And he was just lovely and embraced it fully and had and his approach to it was just that he was going to have as much fun as he could every time he was on camera, and he did, and he was brilliant.
That's incredible. And speaking of animatronics and puppeteering, how did your work with on Hoggle in this movie, prepare you for later projects? What did you learn from that?
Well, we were at the early stages of making animatronics wireless. So up
Mhm.
until then, animatronics were almost always cables. Dark Crystal was all mostly cables. So people pulling cables that were working eyes and features and stuff like that. But it meant there was a lot of people that had to work each character. So with Hoggle, we wanted to make it wireless. Um, and so, but it was still four performers working the face. And but it was the other three performers and me who were all working the face. We'd done a lot of work together, so we're really good at almost reading each other's minds. So we could perform as a team. But coming off of Labyrinth is when we started developing systems where one performer could work a lot of motors as opposed to one movement, one control works one motor. So it was sort of the kickoff of development that allowed us to make the storyteller, Ninja Turtles, dinosaurs. I mean, by the time we got to dinosaurs, if we were doing it the way we had done Hoggle, it would have been impossible because at that point we were down to one performer working each phase. So
Mhm.
we were in the development of our animatronic track that started with Dark Crystal and I would say peaked with dinosaurs and Farscape.
That's awesome. And my last question is, one of those projects that you would go on to do was the Muppets Christmas Carol, which is my favorite. And now that, When Love Is Gone has been there for a year now on Disney Plus, how do you feel about the full version being so readily accessible for everybody?
Yeah, I'm thrilled because I was
Mhm.
furious that it was gone. I had an arrangement with Disney that it would only be removed from the initial theatrical release. Their argument was young kids don't relate to a love ballad and it just makes them bored. And so for the theatrical release, let's remove it. And then I said, okay, but as long as it goes back in forever from then on, because if people are watching it at home, it's okay if the kids get a little bit distracted when they're at home. So, because it's so much better a movie structurally for adults with the song in. Um, Scrooge's emotional arc, beautifully played by Michael Caine, really, really requires that moment to be expanded into a song for his emotional arc. So the movie is a much more powerful story to adults when the song is in, and maybe not so with 3 year olds, but for adults definitely it's so. The problem was Disney had lost the negative for years and years and years, and we only found it whatever it was a couple of years ago, and by me poking them 3 times a year, but they did find it, and so it's lovely to have it back in. I would like it to be now the main version in all their languages. I'd like it not to be an added extra that you
Yeah.
can watch it. It really, the film, the intention was to have the song in. When the song is in, it's a better, more powerful story.